I did not hear anything.
Okay, say something.
Testing, testing. Hello, everyone.
Okay,
Are you there?
can you guys hear us?
Oh, Debbie said okay.
Okay, you want to do the intro?
Sure, yeah, sorry about that,
Or do you
folks.
want me to reset and do the intro?
Oh, no, it's okay. No
Okay.
problem. The reality of being newly sober, they can hear us now, so we'll just keep on going. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. Really appreciate it. And the reality of being newly sober from alcohol is the title, and I said you won't quit, and that's the reason I put that title in there is according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, the percentage of alcoholics who recover, that is, they stop drinking and they stay sober, is about 36%, or a little bit more than one third. So that's a pretty low percentage of people that actually stay sober that try to quit drinking. And those factors can be like the severity of your alcohol dependence and maybe co-occurring addictions or mental health conditions, or maybe the social support systems aren't there. um, could just be your individual commitment and your motivation. I know that was probably an issue for me. It was a huge one. Your family dynamics, or just your basic living situation, and the list goes on as to why people might start drinking. And again, when they do get sober, and that there's what we tend to think, and I know you guys have probably heard this many times if you watch different videos and our videos and all that, and it's not willpower. We can't willpower ourselves out of this. We're chemically dependent on alcohol, and that's the issue here. Is we can't drink anymore, right? So why do people start drinking again? I mean, it can be complicated, but really it's actually quite simple. Think about it this way: when I quit drinking, um, I had thought about stopping drinking for a long time. I'm talking years. I knew that I had to stop drinking. I thought about it. It was starting to cause negative things to happen in my life. Things were getting worse. There were starting to be legal problems, family problems, money problems, all the stuff that happens to people. I didn't have any huge health impacts, although I was getting quite unhealthy as my alcoholism continued. But that was those were the types of things that were happening, and I wanted to stop the pain. That's what I wanted to do, and eventually things got bad enough to where the pain was just too much. The the alcohol was causing too much trouble in my life. The idea of not drinking anymore started to become more important than the drink. And that's when I started to do something about it. And I went to rehab, and I got sober for those 30 days. I got out of rehab, and fairly soon after, I started drinking again. Why did I start drinking? I'd gotten through that pain, and I sort of no longer had it. I mean, I had the consequences that I still had to deal with. They didn't go away, but I was feeling better. And that's part of what the problem was. I stopped drinking because of the pain that drinking was causing me. And as I started to feel better, things were going good. When I took that drink and started, and soon after it was full blown back into it, as the same quantity, if not more, than what I was drinking before. But when I took that drink, it was just a thought. That's all it was for me. Is I think I'm gonna have a drink, and I'll control it. It'll be okay, and I'll just have a couple, and I'll save it for tomorrow. The rest, nah, that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. But I started to feel better, and that's where the idea came from. Is that I think I can handle this. I did not take alcohol off of the table. You'll hear a lot of people say that I'm trying to quit drinking. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to quit drinking. What does that word trying mean? That means that I'm really going, does that mean that I'm not going to drink anymore no matter what? No, that means I'm going to attempt to quit drinking, but I still have this back door where I can take that drink again. And that's where I fell into was I'm trying to stay sober, but if I don't, it's still back there. I think I might take that drink. That's what happened with me is I thought that I would that alcohol might be a good idea. So I had all this pain and I got through it. I started to feel better. And then that thought came in my mind. This is where so many people fail. And this usually happens in the early sobriety. I'm talking early sobriety, like the first year of sobriety. It happens more often earlier, like for me, which was just like the first couple of weeks when I started drinking again after rehab. But that's what happened with me. Now, I think, Marcus, you might have a little bit of a different take on this. But for me, when I started drinking, and I see this all the time, is that people can't really give this reason why they had this idea to make them drink again. Like they thought that a lot of people will think that something bad has to happen in my life. I started drinking because this happened. I lost my job. Sure, that happens. A lot of people that can happen with. But that's not the only reason why people will start drinking. And in fact, most people that I've talked to, they don't know why. Their reason. They knew that alcohol was going to cause problems. I knew it was going to cause problems again, yet I chose to drink again because I thought that I could handle it. And so what's kind of your take on this, Marcus?
Yeah, I think that I don't think there needs to be a reason. I think people drink just because they drink.
Yep.
Before I actually went to rehab and was sold on the idea that I didn't want to and probably shouldn't and couldn't drink anymore without the repercussions, I had many times where I was sober for a couple of weeks and then I'd find myself at lunch ordering something and I'd be like, "Who the hell said that?" I knew I said it, but I didn't think it through. Sometimes it's just a matter of habit. Sometimes you're like, "Oh, I want to drink because I always drink," or one won't be that bad. Or maybe an accidental, like, "Oh, I just order a drink because I always order a drink." Looking at these things, the reason this happens is because you don't have the defense against that first drink. That's
Yep.
why a lot of people say you're powerless. A lot of people say you're powerless over the first drink. I You're not powerless over having the first drink. You're powerless after you have had the first drink. So the power comes before. Like the power is in getting the muscles so that you don't need to rely on that drink or it doesn't come automatically. And now you do have that buffer of, I'm thinking this through clearly. Many of us have had that thought where you're like, okay, I'm angry, irritable, discontented, and I want to drink. I need a drink. And those are just things that you tell yourself that are not true. You don't need a drink. You weren't born needing a drink. That wasn't like, oh, hey, in order to survive, young one, you need to drink. That is not something that we need. That is something that we learned. We learned that drinking was going to help us. Then we reinforced it many, many times by having a drink and feeling better. However, what you're doing is you're attributing this feeling to something that's not really giving you that feeling. Case in point, there was a time when I was so nervous and anxious and hungover and feeling terrible that I could barely even hold my drink when I got it. And I remember one time I went to lunch and I had vowed not to have alcohol in the house. Therefore, I went to lunch, right? There, solve that problem. Go out of the house and have the alcohol. It was about 11:30 a.m. I went to lunch. Went to lunch early because I wanted to drink, and that's what I did. And I went there, and I remember I was shaky, and as soon as she came around the corner with that drink, I felt better. Interesting. So I didn't drink it, but I felt better knowing it was there, like a security blanket. I was like that stinky kid on the Snoopy. or he has a security blanket everywhere and he feels better because of it. Is that security blanket keeping him secure? No, it's all in his head. Um, that's how it is for us. It is in your head for the most part. You are attributing that first 15 minutes of being feeling better to the drink, and it's like, okay, if you just wait 15 minutes, you'll probably feel better anyway. And what we need to do is we need to learn new ways to feel better, because let's face it, we drink because we want to feel better. Yeah. We don't know how to calm our minds. We don't know how to not have anxiety. We don't know how to shut off that voice in the back of our head that says you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you'll never do it, you don't amount to anything, you're a fraud. All of us have this voice. Well, most of us do, I think. And we don't know how to shut it off. But the fact is, nobody knows how to shut it off. What do? You stop giving it power. And you stop giving it power by stop making it a thing. Right? Thoughts are not things. I know that there's the law of attraction people who are like, thoughts are things and you manifest what you want. Okay, well, I don't subscribe to that. You actually have to go get it. Like, you can't manifest money. You could say I manifested money, but you still have to go to the bank to go get it, even if you manifested it. So there goes that. And what's happening is we're making our thoughts this big deal. I want to drink. You give it power. I need that drink. Power. What if you're like, well, I want to drink because I drank a bunch of times before, and that's just my mind doing what it does. I'm anxious because I probably had 15 pots of coffee, and that's just what it is. Or I didn't have enough sleep. And what you do is you start to realize that you are a fallible human being that's pretty much not much elevated from an animal or an ant. I mean, we have our elevations, but in the grand scheme of things, we are just in our colonies doing our things, running around. And when you look at that and you're like, hey, I'm just a person, I fail, I screw up, I have thoughts, I have anxiety, I have this. Instead of thinking, I alone have this anxiety, I have this problem, and I need to drink because no one understands me. Everyone understands you, they just don't talk about it because it's not fun, it's not cute, it's not cool. Now, there has been more of an enlightened movement of talking about issues, which I think is a little bit overcorrecting, where now people are like, well, I have this baggage and I carry it around, and look, my baggage is bigger than your baggage, and it's heavier, and it's whatever. And instead of just looking at it and being like, we are all here, we all have our issues, let's just work through it and be. And we don't need to drink over them, right? And drinking doesn't solve the issues. If it did, I probably would have kept drinking, but it didn't solve them. It made it worse, and it made them exacerbated. And when you start to realize, you know what? All these problems I have, I can work through unless I drink. Because when I drink, I believe them more. I believe that this anxiety is some big problem. I believe that these mental things that are going on inside of me are some big problem. Then when I get sober, I'm like, wait a minute, those aren't really there anymore. They went away, and now I can cope with them, and now I can deal with them. And you start to realize, wait a minute, I am not everything I think I am. I'm not everything I think I'm not. Back when I drank, I thought I was like this all-powerful, guy making things happen. And then I woke up one day and I'm like, well, I'm just in my house like 300 million other Americans. There is nothing really special about me, even though I was told I was special. I'm just a guy, right? Like he says on Birdcage, I'm just a guy. That's all I am, just a guy going through, doing what I do. And what that does is it takes the pressure and the heat off. Because what we are all doing is we are all acting and pretending our roles in life. I am a banker and a businessman, and I am important. Everyone agrees, therefore that person's important. If nobody agreed, the guy wouldn't be important. We see him all the time. There was like a bunch of people back in the old days agreed that the Jesus guy was the guy. Right? Since then, there's been thousands of people who claim to be Jesus. If enough people agreed with him, they'd be the Jesus. Now, wherever you're at religiously, put that aside for a minute. We're not going into actual religious stuff. We're just talking about when people agree. If people agree Donald Trump has answers, then they agree. Half people do, half don't, But that's the fact, is it's all based on agreements, and it's all based on what you think and what you want, which doesn't really mean all that much, right? I would sit there and stew about my thoughts, and I kept a notebook because I thought they were so important, and I write them down, and now I go back and I'm like, Yeah, it was kind of asinine. Like that thought that I thought was brilliant didn't really pan out too well. And I start to realize I'm just one of many. And you know what? In a different note, this would solve a lot of our problems. Instead of looking to a political leader that has all the answers, has it all figured out, and is everything, what if it was just like, hey, you know, I'm the president. I really don't know what's going on. We're going to try some things out and see what works. What do you guys think about that? Same thing in our life with drinking, right? We look at it and we're like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever drink again. I hope I don't, but I don't know. I'm not certain. I know I don't want to, and I don't know, and I know I don't want to because of a big list of reasons. It brings back the mental issues. It brings back the anxiety. It takes me in a loop, a cycle that I might not ever get out of. I don't want to get in that again. And looking at that and safeguarding things, you start to safeguard. When you're new, when Terry was new out of rehab, he didn't really safeguard. That's probably why he drank again.
Right.
Now, I mean, I went in the fridge today, and my daughter and her friends like to have CBD water. And I was thinking, you know, that looks like some of the stuff I drink. Maybe I should have them put it somewhere else because if I accidentally had one, it'd be a really bad day for me. Even though I could probably get out of it, that's not something I want to do. I don't want to mess up my sobriety just because, you know, one can looks the same as another. Now, do I know I'm going to be more careful about it? Of course. But there is that worry. A lot of people don't know. After about 5 years sober, I started drinking non-alcoholic beer. And one time we went to a place and they had served me a regular one in a glass after I had ordered the other. They had very similar names. And I drank it. And luckily, I was able to recognize it and say, hey, this is not alcoholic, non-alcoholic. Give me the real one, or the real non-alcoholic one, however you say it.
The real fake one.
The real fake one. And realizing that was key because it was like, I could have just downed it, but I don't want to anymore. That's not what I'm after. And when you set up a life that you're like, you know what? All of this stuff I think, all this stuff that I need to drink over, I really don't. There is no real benefit to drinking. It hasn't helped my life. If I look at the sum gain versus bad, it's way more bad. And that's what I do is safeguards. What am I going to do when? What am I going to do at a wedding when someone just hands me a drink, as they do to everyone else? Is it them, like in the old days, I'd be like, oh, they're trying to get me. They're trying to get me to see it's the devil giving me the drink. No, it's not. It's just someone giving a drink because that's what they do. It's my job to make myself okay. That is my job. Nobody else's. Nobody's going to watch out for you but you. And when you start to realize that, that's when you can really change.
Yeah, and it's in the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I got out of rehab and I started drinking again, I had given the power to the rehab, and then my main form of sobriety was a hospital outpatient and AA, and I'd given my power to them as far as they're going to keep me sober, not me. I am responsible for my own sobriety. Those other things, they help. Absolutely. A sobriety program is crucial, at least it is for me. Following the sobriety program, that's what helps. It still helps to this day. I still do things every day for my sobriety. Do I have to dwell on it? No. But I do have to be consistent with it. At least that's the way I feel that I have to be, and I've stayed sober. When I first got sober, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for a few months, and then I'll be able to mellow out a little bit. And I found that I don't know what is going to make me drink again. Just like Marcus was mentioning earlier, he was saying that he doesn't know if he'll stay sober the rest of his life. I don't either. I don't know what may make me drink again, but I intend not to drink again for the rest of my life. Uh, and what I had to do in that early sobriety is I ended up stepping up. I did more and more and more for my sobriety until I could really develop this sober mindset, this sober way of living. And that's what's worked so far, at least. And, you know, one thing that I wanted to mention was you'll see a lot of videos out there and things like that that talk about, quit drinking without willpower. And there is willpower involved. It has to be. As far as willpower of, I'm not going to drink. That's all I'm going to do is I'm not drinking no matter what. I'm going to will this thing away. Okay, there's truth to that. Absolutely. And I know that if I had to sit there and fight my alcohol cravings, especially in early sobriety, I probably wouldn't have succeeded, which actually I didn't succeed until I did. But then I started to develop a program. There is willpower involved. The willpower comes from doing what you need to do. They talk about willingness to stay sober, being honest, willingness to be honest, willingness to be open-minded. You have to be willing to do those things, and not just willing to do what you need to do to stay sober, but actually doing it. So there is some willpower there. And then another thing you'll see is cravings. You can quit without. I've got this program that'll teach you to not have cravings. You're gonna have them. I've had the occasional craving. Haven't had any lately, that's for sure. Been the last few years, but even years into sobriety, I had cravings here and there. Especially when the COVID shutdowns happened, I was like, what am I gonna do now? And I had a craving, but you just move on from it. You don't have to act on it. That's an important thing. Um, but I do want to say, hey, Joseph, congratulations. It looks like you said you went on a 2-year bender, and then now you're back to 559 days. So it can be done. Some people do start drinking or using again, and you can get sober, and that's awesome. 559 days, pretty awesome. Avocado Man, 21 months sober. I think we've been seeing you since just about the beginning. You're in the UK, and yeah, you mentioned that many people who need rehab can't afford it, and I bet it's the same in the US. Yeah, that is a challenge for many people, and rehabs have gotten very, very expensive. Um, I know a lot of people can get into rehab through their insurance company, so that helps a lot. And I'm myself and Marcus, we were lucky enough to have the cash to spend, but that was about all my cash. But yeah, it can be a tough thing, definitely. And yeah, Marcus, you were saying that CBD water. I've never even heard of that stuff. Guess I've been sober. All those fancy drinks and things have come out since I've gotten sober.
No, CBD is not, for me, it would not be a sober drink.
Right.
Um, some of it has actual THC in it, some of it does not. Um, yeah, like if I had a THC one, I don't think I could consider myself sober. That's just me, though. Um, I like to be sober of mind, and yeah.
And that would be me too. I know that um, you know marijuana was not a big part of my later years of drinking, but it was in the younger days, and I would not want to try it again because you know what? Just like alcohol, I know I would like it,
Mm-hmm.
and that would take me on that highway back to the chasing that good feeling. And I feel good being sober, much better than when I was drinking.
Same. Cool.
Definitely. Ty says one thing I notice is as a society in the is a microwave society. We expect things to happen magically or solved with a pill, and yeah, and that's what one of the issues with people not staying sober is we want that quick feeling, and deep in our mind knows that if we take that drink, we're going to get that quick feeling. It's going to make us happy for a few minutes, but then the guilt and the shame is going to kick in, and that's going to be tough to deal with. That's what I find that most people that relapse, they they get this shame, so they get this. They call it a mind. In the AA rooms, they'll say I had a mind full of AA and a belly full of beer, and it's the worst feeling you could possibly have. And yeah, that's true. It's tough.
Johnny says, when one of you got sober, did you ever look to God for help? Not pushing religion, just want to know. So I used to be a preacher. It's funny, I was just flipping through the channels the other day, and the guys that I used to preach with were on, which is always weird. It's always like an interesting trigger for me of a different life that I once knew. And in the beginning of sobriety, so when I was drinking, I was angry at God. I still believed in all that stuff, and I was angry because I was like, why did you make me an alcoholic? Why can't you take this from me? And I would pray and pray and pray, and nothing took it from me. I was like, why do I keep drinking? I don't want to keep drinking. I hated it. It tastes metal to me at the end because I was drinking so much. There was nothing, no flavor. And I was angry. I remember one time the Bible that I had from when I used to preach, me and my wife got in an argument, and I threw it across a room. And I felt bad, as if that meant anything at all. It's just a book. You could throw it if you want. You could burn it. You could do whatever you want with it. It is just an inanimate object, a book. And what you do with it is what you put into it. Now, when I went to rehab, I needed something because I was in a mental hospital and I was down and out, and I was just out, like just gone. So I brought that Bible that I threw to rehab, thinking that somehow it would help me. And I tried to rely on it as much as I could, like, oh, maybe I had fell away. Maybe it was because I'm not a preacher anymore. Maybe it's because I turned my back on God that I am drinking. And I believed all these things, and it helped me for a time. It was like a little crutch that kind of helped me because I didn't know what to think. Then I started listening to some different things out of rehab. And the cool thing about when I got sober was I got to really get and believe what I wanted to get and believe, and I had to work for it. Not like a guy up there saying, hey, this is what you should believe because I think it's in the Bible and I read the Bible and you don't, or whatever. I had to fight for what I believe now, and it took a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I own it. It could be wrong, I don't know, but it works for me, and I absolutely own it. So in the beginning, yeah, I did. Now, not so much. Like, I rely on what is. I rely on reality and things I can focus on. I rely on not drinking. Do I have a higher power today? No, I never really sat down and got a higher power, but I did realize that I wasn't a high power. I'm just an ass with ideas and thoughts that mean nothing. Where I thought my stuff was important, I would argue with you about my political views. Yet I never once served one day in any political capacity, including the election I lost in 6th grade. Never once did I ever sit on a committee, yet I would talk as if I knew what I was talking about. And how many of us do this? How many of us think that we are the all-powerful? We are the creator of our destiny. Yeah, you're not. Like, there's people out there that think they're ruling the world and they get sick. And then it's all over. There's people out there that think that they have power, and then all of a sudden something changes and they don't. I had to realize that it wasn't accepting a higher power that worked for me. It was realizing the futility and the nothingness that I really was. Like, hey, I'm just one of 8 billion people. That's it. That's it. That's all I am. One of 8 billion people. There's 7.9999 whatever billion people that aren't me. Am I better than any of them? No. Am I different? Am I smarter? Who the hell knows? I never went and gave him any tests. Do I know what's best for America? No. I don't even know what's best for my life. How the hell would I know what's best for your life? And when you realize a lot of religion can be hiding, and a lot of religion can be a way to escape, which to me was more addiction. Now, did that substance of going to church change my chemistry? Made me a little anxious, but it didn't make me drunk. So, to each his own there. If church helps you, do it. If it doesn't help you, don't. For me, it did not. Terry, I don't know where he stands on that. But looking at that is like, like that. Like someone says Trump's going to rename Mexico City to America City. He can rename whatever the hell he wants, whatever it is. A name doesn't mean anything. A name is just what you call something. That's the thing, is we get hung up on things. We get hung up on my religion is this, and it must be, and it is so. When reality in life, how much do we really know? I mean, I like to learn. I love learning. I learn all day, every day. But in the grand scheme of things, I know less than 0.0000000000000000001%. That's what I know. Like, how much do I know? Oh, that guy knows a lot about politics. Really? What does he do? He watches TV and reads crap. So he knows a lot about what people say about things that they say about, but in the grand scheme of things, you really don't know anything. And when you submit to the fact that you don't know, that's when you realize you're not the highest power. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. Is Terry smarter than me? Well, Terry's been on the earth like 5 years more than me, or whatever it is. So,
a lot more.
Yeah. So there's some things that he naturally is going to know that I don't know. And I know there's the cliche that's like, oh, when you hit 40, you start to realize certain things. And I'm sure that happens in many milestones. And I think having a humility of, I don't know. I don't know. Is there a God out there? I don't know. I've never been out there. Or you might want to ask Elon Musk. He's closer to Mars than I am. I think he actually came from there, but at any rate, that's what I was going to say. Elon wants to go to Mars. Good. Could you tell him to stay there? All right. That's my own little joke, but but at any rate, you look at these things and it's like, I don't know. Is he good for the country or bad for the country? I don't know. I have my opinions, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't run countries. I have no idea. I do know that drinking sucks me back into these things and makes me think I know, which makes me more drunk. Because, like, go to a bar and find someone that's humble. They don't. Even the person who's blubbering about their life, that's a form of narcissism. I should have better. Oh, everyone's against. That is a form of narcissism. We just don't realize it. There are no humble people in the bar usually. That's why bar fights happen, because I know more than you, and you know more than me, and we all know this, and we all know that. And 1,000 years ago, we thought the earth was X amount. 4,000 years ago, or 400 years ago, or whatever it was, you do the math, we thought the earth was flat. Some of us still do. Not me, but some do. Do I know? I don't know. Someone can come to me and say, I think the earth is flat. I never went to the edge. I have been on an airplane. It does seem to fit the circular one. But again, I've never been on the moon and actually calculated it. I don't know anything. Do I think it's flat? I do not. But I don't know. And when we submit to not knowing, that's when the magic happens. I used to know for a fact I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was a big alcoholic. Did that knowledge help me? No, it did not. But I knew. I'd argue with my wife, you don't understand. I'm not an alcoholic. Those people over there are alcoholics. I went into rehab. I was better than everyone. I was better than Terry. I was like, Terry, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He even came to me and he's like, here's a recipe. And I'm like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know how to cook. And I'm like, dude's been a chef for what? A bazillion years? You've been a chef since you were like 15. And here I am thinking I know more than Terry about cooking. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know shit. I really don't know anything. I just think I do. My ego stopped me from getting sober. And I'm glad, for whatever freak reason, in rehab, I got this guy who was like, yeah, I taught, different PhD courses in different languages on different continents. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not as smart as him. Well, maybe I'll listen to what he's got to say. And I did. And that allowed me to be humble. And I'd like to think that it all came from my power. It didn't. I had to be humbled. I had to be put in a mental hospital so that I could realize that I was a mental case. I belonged there, 100%. And then I was able to get sober because I was like, you know what? All this stuff, if everything I thought could be challenged and could be and probably is a lie to myself, then all bets are off. I better learn some new stuff. I was able to learn new stuff, which was in my knowledge Could there be a God? Well, yeah, I only know 0.000% of stuff. In that other percent, there could be. There also could not be. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that, so I don't go there. Um, and I think that's the key is like everyone is looking for an expert, but no one's looking for an honest man who's willing to figure it out. But I'm like, hey, I'm glad I'm an honest man trying to figure it out. Try to be as honest as I can. Try to figure it out as much as I can. And I know drinking doesn't work for me. So I'll start there. That's where I started. Drinking doesn't work for me. So if I don't drink, then I could get that problem solved. And then we'll move on to the next one. Maybe finances, maybe philosophy, spirituality, whatever it is. But if I don't solve the drinking thing, I'm going to be stuck thinking I'm right. And if I'm right, I can't learn anything because I'm right. Everyone needs to come to me if I'm right. So I think humility is the key. And I think one of the things that maybe could have helped Terry when he got out of rehab and drank again was humility of the drink. Like the
Yes.
humility of, oh shit, I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't deserve another drink. I've had plenty. I don't know what's going to happen. Like now, I've been sober almost 11 years now. Could I pick up a drink and have a Michelob Ultra Light, which is basically water with like a drop of alcohol in it? Well, I'm not going to figure it out. Why would I want to figure it out? Why is it worth that? It's not worth that. Like, there you go. And Nimu, I think, and Nunu, sorry, my allergies are killing my eyes today, says, drinking doesn't work for me either. Nope. I know that. Let's start there. Anyway, what do you got to add to that?
That was a key for me is the humility. Mm-hmm. And that was just part of it though. But I was I didn't have the attitude that I have all the answers. I just didn't have the humility to understand that alcohol had to be completely out of the picture. Mm-hmm. And it probably went further than that. But as far as the God or higher power, however you want to put it, that's part of those three things for me when I got sober was first I had to be willing to do whatever it was going to take to get sober. So people were telling me how they got sober. People with sobriety, some with a year, some with 30 years, they told me what to do. They said, find a higher power. So I said, okay, I'll try. That's all I did. I tried. And the higher power at that point was these people that are staying sober. My higher power has gone on from there. But that's what I started with. And I had to be honest about it. And the honest has to do with the humility. Is I had to be honest with myself that, yeah, I don't know all the answers. I don't know what's going to keep me sober. I have an idea from what these people are telling me, but I don't know what's going to trigger me to drink. So I'm going to do everything I can. And that was it. And then that open-mindedness. A lot of people, we'll get a lot of people on these videos that we have that, they're I'm not going to follow the God route, whatever. That's fine. It's whatever. But what I try to do is stay open-minded to other ideas, because when I was drinking and I wanted to quit, all the ideas I had didn't stop me from drinking. And when I finally opened my mind enough to be able to accept some new ideas, I was able to get sober. And the more I stay open-minded that I don't have the answers, I don't have all the answers. I know what's been working for me so far. And when I stay open-minded enough, then I can hopefully stay sober. And that's what's worked. So, yeah.
Right on, guys. Well, check out talksober.com. Get signed up if you like what we're doing and want to support the channel and learn all kinds of cool stuff to get and stay sober, including my battle with religion. I would say a good bit of the Talk Sober book was my battle with religion. I think you edited it. You probably know. A lot of it was my battle with my smarts and things like that. It's the mental battle. I think it's very raw and real. And I think you guys will get a lot out of it. So check that out over at talksober.com. Just click the yellow button, get signed up. There's also a Facebook group and everything in there you can check out as well. But other than that, get and stay sober and binge watch our videos if you have to, which I think they're helpful. I don't know, they're helpful for me. So if you guys like that, check it out. Smash the like button, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.